Good evening. My name is Maria Isabel. Most people call me Marisa, which is a combination of my first and middle name. I am the Immigration and Refugee Program Assistant at FCNL. I was born and raised in Tegucigalpa, Honduras, where I experienced several privileges growing up. This included going to an American school where I had a high-quality bilingual education, summers and spring breaks spent here in the U.S., and a highly academic and goal-driven family that encouraged success without over-pressure. Contrary to what is constantly portrayed in the news, so-called developing countries are places where people can thrive and live a high-quality life standard. Nonetheless, this occurred for me amid high-level inequality, political chaos, and extreme levels of violence. Honduras is a country where 60% of the population live in poverty and about 40% of the population live in extreme poverty. In 2009, I witnessed a military coup d'etat, which was a catalyst for continuous levels of high violence, gross human rights violation, and the erosion of any democratic values that were still left in my country. Violence levels were so high, I grew up with a constant fear of robbery, kidnapping, and even fear for my life and those of my loved ones. By 2012, Honduras had a murder rate of 90.4 per 100,000 citizens, the highest murder rate in the world outside of a war zone at that time. Social and economic development opportunities for the countries and individuals are extremely limited and left in the hands of mostly the elite. Gang violence has intensified by mano dura or strong fist government policies and the lack of basic resources in communities. Living in fear became the new normal in Honduras after the coup, and for millions of people, that also included poverty and the loss of loved ones to different forms of violence. Given the many advantages that I stated at the beginning of my speech, as well as a lot of hard work, I left my country, and through several scholarships, I completed both my bachelor's degree and master's degree in the United States. Witnessing extreme violence, corruption, and economic hardship propelled me to pursue a career in the policy and global affairs arena. In the past years, I have worked and studied the root causes of many problems in Honduras and Central America, including how U.S. foreign policy to the region exacerbates human rights violations. I have worked with immigrant communities in the U.S. and communities in Central America facing direct and structural violence. My career has also expanded to work in peace building and transitional justice in countries such as Guatemala and South Africa. It is my hope that I have turned my privileges into a positive impact for my country and other countries that have similar backgrounds. However, there are many people in Honduras, just like me, but without access to the social and economic advantages that I have, who wish to leave their country in search for a better life and opportunities. Many of them are seeking safety for themselves and their families. But unlike my story, they must do so through perilous migrant caravans, arriving to the U.S.-Mexico border without documents and then facing the stigmatization of criminals, among many other labels. I cannot tell their story nor pretend to relate. Even though we come from the same country and I have personally been affected by the dangerous and precarious situation in Honduras, my lived experience has been a completely different one. I also do not wish to speak about immigrants and refugees from Central America only as victims. Although they have indeed suffered many different injustices, their quest for better lives, despite structures of capitalism, colonization, and racism to keep them in the status quo, shows their deep resistance and hope. My work now with FCNL consists in U.S. domestic policy for refugee and immigration that aims for a just system that respects human rights and upholds human dignity. Many immigrants and refugees are currently in detention, undergoing cruel and inhumane practices, even now during a global pandemic. Women in detention have been subject to forced, unconsented, and invasive medical procedures. More than 600 children are still separated from their parents since 2017. Immigrants from predominantly Black countries such as African and Caribbean nations have not had their asylum cases heard and have been deported back to their home countries in what many organizations call death planes. As I continue my work, I can only do so through a reflective and anti-oppressive practice that allows me to examine my own lived experience and complex reality, while I continue to work along with others to transform oppressive systems such as the current U.S. immigration system. Today, I invite you to do the same. Examine the power dynamics around you, while also, and in the words of a former professor of mine, reach out to those you fear, touch the heart of complexity, imagine beyond what is seen, risk vulnerability one step at a time. Thank you.